Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the city council meeting of December 17th, 2024 to order. Would everyone please rise for the pledge of allegiance and perhaps I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under indivisible, and justice for. Thank you. Roll call, all councilors are present except Dave Holland, who is not excused. This is, I just have to say this, the third really important meeting that Mr. Holland has missed. I'm very disappointed. We need to amend or accept the regular agenda, and I understand that number 12 is being removed. Parks and Rec is not here.
Yeah, correct, Mayor. She sent me an email and said she had a family obligation and would not be able to make the meeting, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is being removed from the agenda. Are there any other additions to the agenda? Subtraction. Then I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda.
I have a second. Okay, Brad makes the motion, Eric seconds, all those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. Public comments. Public comments are an opportunity to present information or speak on an issue that is not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Visitors may state their comments and should not expect the council to engage in back and forth dialogue regarding the comment. Council may either choose to add it to a follow-up meeting or direct the city manager to follow up with the speaker. I have one request here from Heather Swank. Heather?
I've noticed that the stop sign down at the end of North Canyon Boulevard at the far north side, close to the fairgrounds is, I don't know, it looks like somebody must have knocked the pole off. The sign is put up on a sandwich board down low. And it's been several weeks. It's been a while. It's been a few days. I don't know how many weeks. But I've noticed it and it has not been repaired. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Maybe some of you have noticed that, but anyhow, it concerns me. We have a lot of people that use that street.
Right, thank you. Melissa, can you follow up on that, please? Okay, are there any other public comments? Are there any people online with a public comment? All right, moving on. The consent agenda. All matters listed in the consent agenda have been distributed to every member of the city council for reading and study, are considered routine, and will be enacted by one motion of the council. If a separate discussion is desired, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda by request. We have the minutes of 11/26/24. We have the accounts payable from December 2nd through December 2nd, and the 2024 certified election results for Grant County.
I move we accept the consent agenda.
I have a motion to accept the agenda, the consent agenda. Was there any discussion?
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Rob, hers is anticipating a 20 to 30% increase. Do we have that covered?
I don't believe that John Denny's is 20%.
It's not gonna go up that.
No, in fact, I looked into that as soon as that news came out and we're not as impacted
We're okay.
as some of the others. It will go up. I'm
I know.
not sure on the exact. Side. It's 30%.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? I have a motion from Eric, a second from Ed. All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda? Aye. Unanimous. Okay. we are going to move into a public hearing at this point. This is for, property sale and exchange. We have,
Mayor, I'm just gonna really quick remind the council and the staff board. I have them on the agenda together, but we are taking them separately, so there'll be two separate hearings, and it's really public testimony. Not so much as for you to make a decision from it, but just to hear out the public. It's a formality to let the public know what's going on, so, if you would take A separately from B, that would be great.
Mayor,
okay,
I'll make the motion, we open the public hearing for the proposed sale of property at 241 West Main Street.
I said,
Mayor.
It's just public testimony.
Mayor, I'm gonna recuse although it's just public testimony, I'm gonna recuse myself for any, children. We discussed this, but
okay, thank you. Okay. So all those in favor of moving into.
It's just taking public testimony.
Okay, so, the proposed sale of property at 241 West Main Street. Melissa, you wanna talk about this at all?
Sure, this is the property that the city had entered into a sale agreement with R3. And they subsequently negotiations fell through and they withdrew from the agreement or from the offer. And so the city you have indicated that you'd like to move forward with the sale. So this is the proper procedure to open that up for selling the property to perhaps a private individual. So you take public testimony, the city determines that it is not going to be of value to the city and that we will then open it up and be released to sell it.
Okay, does everybody know which building this is? The one next to the outpost.
The old bakery. Maybe you don't know that.
Okay, is there any discussion on this? Do I have any public comment, any concerns, we can, yes, sir?
I just remind the council that we did have an offer as is. And
It wasn't as is.
what,
It wasn't as is.
as is.
the first offer?
Was not as is.
Well, we had an offer to buy it a lot more than we're not showing, a lot more, 20,000 more than we paid for it. And this council decided not to accept it. So
Well, we didn't accept it because they wanted us to guarantee the building, and that is not the way we originally purchased it. So that is not the way we were going to resell it. Okay, so, no further discussion on that.
can you, I haven't had the opportunity with section 5 of the ordinance, what does that pertain to?
The ordinance was included in your packet and I would have to get your location on letting people in.
Section 5, real,
I think it's towards selling it to a private individual. And what you have to do to.
Policy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting
okay,
maybe not.
there's no other discussion. Do we need a motion on this?
You do.
Okay. Can I get a motion on the sale, going forward with the sale of
Mayor, I'll make a motion, we conclude the public hearing.
okay. Thank you.
Second, that,
Chris makes the motion. Brad second. All those in favor? Aye. Now, can I have a motion to move forward with the paperwork to get this building sold?
Yeah, any offers will come to you. So this is just to open it up for sale.
So you will advertise the building.
I would like to make that motion that we will move, forward on like, the paperwork or whatever, advertising, all inclusive to what we have to do to sell that building.
I have a motion on the table. Do I have a second? Brad, a second.
Are we gonna set a minimum price and specifics about the building itself?
Um,
As is, or?
I mean, we can negotiate offers and we'll bring them back to the council.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll be involved in that. So,
Okay, I have a motion. I have a second. We've discussed it. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous. Okay.
can somebody grab?
What?
Same.
Okay, B, proposed exchange of property on Brent Drive. The No Dime property. The city was approached this summer by Ms. Nodine, who inquired if the city would be interested in a property exchange. The city owns property along her existing shop, which does not connect to any city property along to the east. In the past, it was considered for a trail or pedestrian system, but does not seem to be a viable option in the future. Ms. Nodine is proposing to exchange the city-owned property directly in front of her shop for waterfront property along North Brent, which could be utilized as ROW for future improvements to North Brent. A broker opinion has been provided in here, and you've all had a chance to look at that.
Yeah, we have the map of the proposed exchange of property. Which, I think the intent, was to have a path go through. However, there really is no connecting end to the path to get out of that area. And when you walk it, it really feels uncomfortable. You are right next to her shop. So if we were, you'd have pedestrians and it's a very uncomfortable feeling. One thing about when you design paths and you want trails and pedestrian pathways for people is they have to feel comfortable or they're not gonna go. You feel like you're walking into her yard and you are literally within like 3 feet of her shop door. And so, since there is no out and I don't see us in the future getting an access through there, she's offered, hey, to exchange this piece of property for some right of way along Brent, which I think is more valuable to the city. So, staff has brought that to you.
I went down and walked it and looked at it. And she's right, what she said there, we don't need that.
Right. Okay. I'm going to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we do. Open public hearing for exchange of property in Brent Drive, New York.
Okay, second. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
And second that. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, do we have anybody that wants to comment on this particular transaction? Anyone online? Okay, can we close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second,
All those in favor? Aye. Council, does council have any discussion? No? It's okay with it?
I think it's our gain,
Yes,
beginning the extra width on the right of way for Brent Street,
agreed,
if we ever decide to improve that.
agreed. So we have a motion to approve?
Yeah, I got a question.
Oh. Yes,
At the south end. North Brent, ingress and egress. In the future. right? That's what makes the bridge, am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't make a lot of sense. There, people don't really need that go down that. It's in floodplain,
You can make it one way.
well, just. We already have a lot of traffic going over that bridge already, and then the egress and egress right at the area. But, I don't see Brent Street being expanded down through that area. But one person. opinion.
And
I think it's a win-win for the city because number one, they're picking up, approximately 1,500 square feet. The city is for taxation.
okay. Is there any further discussion? Can we move forward?
I'll make a motion, we move forward with the exchange.
With the property exchange on the Brent Drive, no dime.
That's actually,
And Brad seconds it. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Passed
Thanks
unanimously.
for the map.
Passed unanimously. Okay. Going to do a public hearing on an ordinance 24-204-016, an ordinance of the city of John Day establishing camping regulations and a campsite removal policy. Has everybody had a chance to read that? The ordinance?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna open the public meeting. I'm gonna open the public hearing.
Yeah, and I can just give you a brief update.
Okay, thank you.
You held, town halls, we did have a survey. 25 people submitted the survey. And so I think what council concluded or what staff in, some council input is, right now, our homeless are camped next to City Hall. And there's actually two. One of them well-known in the community. And I'll say this for lack, it is not a problem at all. In fact, far from it. Will not be an issue with enforcement at all. And so the other one is, of course, everybody has seen the motorhome. And so, in a companion to this, when you get to the next IGA for law enforcement, just jumping the gun a little bit, part of what we negotiated in that contract is the sheriff office has agreed that they will enforce our homeless ordinance, which is a big win. So kind of letting, kind of getting to the good stuff before, but, that's very important to us because, this is a visible spot. We made the hours so that when we come into work, it's very noticeable. At 8 o'clock, these people have to be gone with all their stuff for the day at least. Then not come back till 7. That's very enforceable. It's a bright line. We can tell right away if anybody's violating. There's, in your ordinance, if you'll read it, there's requirements on the amount of square footage space they can kind of take up. They can't have any, add-ons or lean-tos or more, start building a tent mahal. And so, there's also, though, on the other hand, in the ordinance, you'll find there's also, requirements for when we're doing enforcement that we have to involve social services and some, people. So, best of both worlds. I think it's a great ordinance. I think it's a good start. I think if we, enforce the two issues we have right now, I don't think this is gonna be an issue moving forward. I think we'll be good to go. And so the trial is, we keep it where it is, the location where it is right now, and see how it goes with enforcement and what happens there. And then if it does become a problem, the ordinance is built so that, with council's authority and my authority, we can change the location if we need to. And so, this is what we're bringing to you tonight.
Okay, we're going to open the public hearing.
It's not public. We already have that. We had a city meeting, right?
I'm
No,
sorry,
but this is for the ordinance, the adoption of the ordinance.
Before we get into that,
Yeah.
was this advertised in 3 places?
The ordinance?
Yeah.
It was on the website.
And I saw when you started going in, I thought, has to be advertised in three spots, or excuse me, 3 spots. And three copies available at the city hall. Just want to make sure we check everything before we pass this. I don't want anybody coming back on us.
We passed other ordinances, and I don't think we did. If that is the case, then we can postpone.
Well, to read it by title only, those things have to be in place. It's, I think, C under the ordinance. The adopted.
Is there an option, like, I saw within the ordinance, the, fee schedules for, people being assessed for violations. Is there a possibility, since we have people that are homeless, that they could do, in lieu of that, community service, like
I think it's
through,
in there.
Yeah. It's included in the ordinance.
Yeah.
It's,
it is?
yeah, there's the reality is the judge probably isn't going, the reality is we're probably not going to be using the fines as much as we are the enforcement of you gotta move on and impounding, cleaning up tents. If they're fined, we are asking in the ordinance is ask the judge to look at other issues in relation to it. Substance abuse, rehab, some other things. The courts have kind of in the state mandated that we don't go heavy on fines. Because obviously, the reality is most of the time, this population can't afford them anyway.
It's number 3 in the ordinance. It states that, the court is encouraged to order participation in drug or alcohol treatment programs, employment assistance programs, emergency shelter or housing assistance, and other social services or community service in lieu of imposing a fine and or of imposing the maximum amount of fine. So it is there.
I stand corrected.
Okay, all right.
You said,
So are we going to be able, we're not gonna be able to move forward with this tonight?
No, how I read it.
10 working days. If the notice, the notice should be published in a newspaper of general circulation within the area where the hearing is to be conducted.
That's not our ordinance. What?
No, I'm looking at Oregon.
Yeah, you guys.
while they're looking that up, I visited with the mayor of, excuse me, Prairie City this morning, this afternoon, for about a half an hour. Concerning their sheriff's contract. And he informed me that if they were to impound a motorhome, the sheriff would not do it because they're not gonna store it.
Right,
No, and we'll talk about that when we get to our
Just so you're aware.
ordinance. No, I'm aware. We can. Except this subsection 3 of this section allowed reading by title only, the council may adopt an ordinance at a single meeting by the express unanimous votes. of all council members present, provided it is read first in full and then by title. Your reading of the ordinance may be by title only. No council member present at the reading requests. Or, so if you don't request, that's an or, not an and. So the rest of it's an or, so if no council member at the reading requests that the ordinance be read in full. Copy of ordinance provided, which it was. Available public inspection at the office, we had copies. Anybody could have came in and asked for them. That's what there were right at City Hall.
Yeah, several places, yeah. It's in the ordinance.
So if you're
City
requesting,
charter.
if you're requesting that it not be read,
I'm not, by title only, that's what I'm talking about. I don't think anybody wants to hear the whole ordinance. Maybe they do, I don't know. Pretty lengthy.
yeah, so if you're not requesting that, then we're fine. No council member present at the reading requests that the ordinance be read in full. It's or at least 1 week. So hold on.
Okay, so if you say we've done that, I have no problem. Build the charters.
Okay, and. Ready to move on?
I do have one thing, I've been watching that area for quite a while, and it looks like the motorhome is abandoned. And the registration is expired. See, our ordinance indicates that they have 72 hours if a notice is placed on that, and you can remove it.
We have to approve the, IGA with the sheriff's department before we can do anything.
I know, but I just, it's an ordinance that we can do that.
Right.
I'll make it. We have a motion on the floor?
No, I do not have a motion on the floor.
I'll
I'm
make a
not
motion
sure.
that we read ordinance number 24-204-16 by title only.
Okay, do I have a second?
I can second that.
Okay, Chris made a motion to read this by title only. And, Ron seconded it.
Got to vote on it.
Well, but you want discussion first, don't you, Chris? Is there any discussion?
I think it's a great idea.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so you've got, let's see here. I've got to write down. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ayes. 0 nays. 1 no abstention, and 1 absent. And no vacancy. Okay. We now have a camping ordinance.
So read it by title only now.
What?
It's the wrong one.
You have to read it by title only now.
I don't even have the right.
Then we'll approve if you read it.
I don't even have the right one. You know what, Mayor, in my haste,
Yes,
I don't even have the right ordinance in the packet, so, that is my fault. When I put this together, and so. I think we need to hold up. And I apologize because,
So we have a motion on the table, it's been discussion.
yeah. We've already voted on it.
So, so I'll make a motion that we,
Rescind your.
rescind the previous vote and pull this until.
To the subsequent meeting.
So you made the motion. Ron,
No, you did. I
You
second.
did.
okay, I'll withdraw my motion.
We've already voted.
Okay,
So why
so
don't we vote and just say no, and then we'll.
Yeah, we're fine. Read it.
if he withdrew his motion, Reese,
Yeah, Chris
I just have to
withdraw.
ask for, we just reconsider.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
I do apologize. I didn't even.
well, Melissa,
Thanks.
thanks.
I'm so sorry. Let's go back in. Oh, man.
You'll pay for it, sure.
So do we need, Melissa, do we need a motion to table this until? It's I think I made that motion, but,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make the motion to table it.
so I've made a motion to table, I've made a motion to table it until, next council meeting. Table the ordinance.
Brad seconds that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously. Okay.
I was looking at the wrong thing. Gee.
No, just,
Sorry, guys.
I was looking at the wrong one.
Okay, resolution number 24-913-06, a resolution of the city of John Day adopting certain water and sewer service fees effective January 22nd, 2025. You wanna take this one, Melissa?
Yeah, I don't know. I found what I was looking at was wrong, but it'll help me, to Counselor Laphardt's point. I will check on those ordinances and make sure we have the exact right way of, posting those before we actually approve anything. This is a resolution, stemming from your discussion about the wastewater plant and our rate study. It is imperative that we get our finances in check with regards to getting the money needed to build the plant and having the right numbers, for our funding agencies. This is, the reality of what we have to do. So it is the water and wastewater rate increases, which will go into effect in January. You were sent an email, earlier today that Canyon City, approved theirs last night, which, gosh, that is amazing and a testimony to our relationship of working together. And, I still will stand by that, we will do everything possible to make sure the numbers are correct and that we are charging fairly, as we move forward. And so that's what this is.
Thank you. And are there any, extra caveats to this that?
Yeah, thank you for the reminder, Mayor. The council, I'm sure you want full transparency. The council, in the past has not had to pay for their utilities, water and sewer. Moving forward, this, staff is asking the council to, make a motion to not have that policy in place anymore. And that council actually paid their share, moving forward. And so, we will be bringing back an ordinance change in the future that, deals with snowbirds and people that leave for months at a time. They also will probably need to pay their base rate every month also. But that is an ordinance change. And right now we're just dealing with the increase for the rates.
I was just gonna say, I think it's awesome. My understanding was it's a charter provision.
Here we go.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a charter revision. So
I
regardless,
don't remember that being in the charter.
okay, if it's not, that's fine. It might be in the ordinance. I could be mistaken.
I don't believe it's in the charter.
Is it an ordinance?
I thought it was a policy.
No, it's somewhere because I couldn't believe.
Whatever we have to do to make it tonight.
Well, we'll bring it up with the snowbird ordinance.
Okay, so let's, I'll make a motion that any policy that's in place that gives, that allows members, volunteer members of the council to have their water sewer rates be waived, be rescinded. If it turns out that there's other more controlling authority above that, please bring that back to us so we can make the appropriate changes as soon as possible.
But for right now, the resolution itself can be passed. Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we read resolution number 24-914-07 by title only. That's Clark's. Resolution number 24-913-606. Thanks. Senior moment.
Okay, I've got a motion to read the resolution by title only. Do I have a second? Eric seconds it. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
No, you just read it by title only. Yeah, and we're done. Well, then we have to pass it.
Okay,
We need to read it by title only.
okay. Resolution number 24-913-06, a resolution of the city of John Day adopting certain water and sewer fees effective January 22nd, 2025.
Make a motion, we adopt resolution number 24-913-06.
I second.
Chris makes the motion, Brad seconds it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Alright, the next resolution that we have to go over. I just lost something. We have a resolution number 24-913-7 Clark's disposal request for elimination of fuel tax and raise of rates for net zero impact to customers. So Clark's disposal, back in when the gas prices went crazy, raised the rate for the fuel surcharge. And now they're wanting to take the fuel surcharge away but leave the rates the same as their increase. Do I have any discussion?
I believe.
Here.
Oh.
Do you have anything to say?
The July of 2022 and fuel surcharge in place. Since then, we've implemented the automation, the rural cards, but just need to clean up the language of the rate table. One, it was 1 can, 2 can, 45 gallons. Do away with those, and the last official rate increase was the fall of 2019, and just like to the rates where they are currently in 2025. Will it allow it?
Is that with the gas franchise or extra or not?
Yes,
It is.
leave everything they are now.
You're doing away with the gas fuel charge. But you're increasing the rate to what the gas fuel charge was.
Yes.
So your rates are going to remain the same. You're just gonna be paying an increase instead of the fuel surcharge.
No, zero.
Right, there's no net change. So do I have any discussion? Okay, I'm gonna read the resolution by name
Title.
only,
Title only.
title only.
Motion.
Would you make the motion, please?
Make a motion to read the resolution.
I second.
Eric makes the motion, Brad second, all those in favor? Aye. Resolution number 24-914-07, a resolution authorizing Clark's Disposal, Inc., an Oregon corporation to increase its service rates under the solid waste management ordinance number 11-149-02. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution number 24-914-07.
Chris makes the motion.
I'll second that.
Ron seconds it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, so that's.
Can I jump back to the water sewer discussion really quickly and just clarify?
Yes.
Okay, so I think we're good to go with what we passed. Section 25 of the charter specifically says the council shall prescribe the compensation of city officers. That's us. That means the council has the authority to prescribe any compensation. Second line, the council may prescribe a plan for reimbursing city officers for expenses that they incur in serving the city and also free residential water and or sewer services. Sewer service. So what it says is the council can prescribe that compensation, but it doesn't have to. So we have the authority to take it away, which is what we did with them. So I think we're good to go. It's actually talked about in the charter. So
Thank you. Okay, so everybody's gonna get a bill.
yay.
And your water will be turned off if you don't pay it.
We work with people.
Okay. Two more exciting things. The IGA for law enforcement services. That's been a long time coming.
So, full disclosure, we are 99.9% completed with this IGA. There's a couple of legal tweaks that are don't have any material value for your decision. And I felt it was more beneficial to bring it now and get it approved, and we can tweak those and then send it over to the court. This is exciting. The sheriff and I have worked out the agreement and was easy to do. Like I said, we negotiated them enforcing our homeless ordinance when we adopted. And then they will be dedicating, for the most part, an officer here. Won't be 24/7 because, of course, that's not how far this money's gonna stretch, but it's a start. And it's, I think, a start of a good relationship with the sheriff's office and the county. To Counselor Labhart's point, when we say enforce, they will set up the towing. However, we will be paying that bill. So as part of our budget process coming up in the future, we will have a line item for enforcement. That's a companion piece to this law enforcement IGA. And so, for instance, if they have to tow that motorhome or any other vehicle motorhome in our camping area, we will have to pay that cost. We will also have to store it on our own property because that's what the state law mandates, is that we have to store it. But they will be facilitating that and helping us with that. So
How long is it still?
30 days. Yeah. And there's a lot of little caveats that go into that. And if there's, property that's of value, you have to have somebody assess that, and some things that go on with that. Inventory, yeah. And it's not value, what you would consider value, it's what the person that owns the property would consider valuable. So we may not consider an old tent or an old sleeping bag value, but they might. Somebody that has, like a social worker, has to come out and help evaluate it. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer.
Visiting with Mayor Clark, Prairie City. asking specifically, do you think you're getting the bang for your buck? You're spending a little over $80,000 for a sheriff's deputy. And he said, it's really hard. We cannot continue doing it. And he suggested, and I'm just throwing this out for next year, that maybe we share between Prairie City and John Day, a deputy. About $70,000 each, according to the sheriff. Actual cost for that officer would be about $140,000.
Yeah, I think that might be low, because you have
That's what
to,
he told Prairie City.
yeah. Oh, are you talking about a sheriff, like from the sheriff's office, have
Yes.
one? Well, we're kind of getting our own now with our
Well, but he's
money.
not gonna, they're not gonna give you 40-hour service.
Right,
Mayor
right.
Clark said they're getting about 32 hours of service. And he says, I don't think we need that much, but we are contracted with them for at least 1
Yeah,
year.
we can look into
Yeah,
it.
just,
Yeah.
just something to look
Yeah.
at.
Okay. Is there any more discussion on the contract? Okay. Can I get a motion to accept this contract? It would be
Subject to legal
subject
review.
to legal review. Somebody,
Yeah.
anybody.
Make a motion to, approve the intergovernmental agreement for law enforcement with the sheriff's department. And being subject to legal
Review.
reviews.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
And Ron seconds that. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Great job, guy. This has been years in the making. I'm glad it's done. Okay.
Just beginning.
Timber Trucker Light Parade Community Grant Request.
Yeah, Mayor, I got, this request, a call from, and I can't remember the name of the person right off the top of my head. Apparently the city has always donated $100 to the timber trucker like parade. I felt like this should be handled the same as all the other community grants and come before you.
I think that, their request is very nominal and the benefits of having the parade through our town is greatly appreciated, so I don't see any reason why we shouldn't move forward with granting them $100.
You need a motion.
Yeah.
I would like to make that motion. That we grant the Truckers Light Parade our community grant request of $100.
I'll second.
And Ed seconds that. Is there any discussion?
Yes. Question, our line item for grant requests, where we? No.
It's gonna be in the.
Is it in our financials?
Yeah, it's in the
I
financial.
know it's not.
Well, we get, I think we're still. I think we have about 2,000 to 3,000 left. Don't quote me.
So here's kind of where I'm at. It's kind of a principle thing. I love the parade. I love the truckers. I mean, if $100 can make a difference, I'll come up with $100. And I don't think our number one priority is this wastewater treatment plant, and we just voted to raise people's wastewater or water, sewer, excuse me. I'm caught with the conflict of handing out money, continuing to hand out money. Don't get me wrong, good, well-intentioned things. Yet our number one focus should be keeping those rates low and saving that moving forward. We have got to become disciplined, and we can't just say yes every time somebody comes in and asks. But the city taxpayers, do it. That's what I'm struggling.
My only caveat to that would be this is from TLT dollars. So it's transient tax dollars, so It's not dollars we can spend on this. That's the only. Yeah. It's not in a budget.
Spend it.
I totally understand where you're coming from, but
That's where I'm going. I mean, we're taking money that is designated,
that could be
general
going
fund,
for.
that is designated for wastewater treatment.
No, we are not.
Yeah.
But if it's money that cannot be used for, that's fine.
Yeah,
It does-
not at this point. Now the legislature, they're lobbying to try to get it.
Yeah.
We'll let you know when that happens.
Thank you for the clarification. Just every time I get a chance, I'm gonna beat the drum on this.
Okay. Consider your drum beaten. Can I get a motion?
Already done.
You already made the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Moving on. Okay, we have an engineering services RFP to approve. Melissa?
Yeah, Mayor, this is, something that, been on the agenda for a while. We need, we need to have a firm that is dedicated to helping the city and can take on the extra work. We use engineering in almost every aspect of our government, planning, doing analysis. We have several plans that need updating. And it would just be more economically viable to have an engineer that comes in and says, yes, we will dedicate our time to you and learning your city and being in your city and helping you with those services. And so, this is an RFP. If you approve it, we would go out in the beginning of January and, collect those, referrals as they come in and then bring them to you with a recommendation. Get somebody on board.
Yes.
This question gets from Melissa and Rob. Where's funding coming from?
Professional services.
Let's go to the professional service line, which you guys will see on your financial report. You can make your own determination.
Oh, I'm just,
I mean, the reality is we don't have anyone on board now and we're having to go out to just farm it out to whoever's available. And, we're not getting consistency and we're not getting the better bang for our buck. This really is the cheaper way to go, in the long run. I mean, we gotta have somebody to do those things.
If I may, by the time you get somebody on board, you're gonna have a board year. So we'll have a minimal impact on this year, and we'll have the opportunity to do it for next year.
thank you.
Yeah.
I move we approve the request for proposal solicitation for engineering support for the city as presented.
I have a motion from Eric. Do I have a second? Ed seconds it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Okay. All right. Nick, are you still awake? He's
I'm
here.
here.
You're on.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Great. It's a little hard to hear this week. I don't know if there's something different going on with the audio, but you guys are not coming through as clear as usual, just so you know.
Okay. I'll use my big girl voice. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay.
All right. So it's our first update in a little while, but you guys have really been seeing most of the steps we've taken. A lot of it's come to council, so we thought it was a good time to dig into the weeds on a couple issues with some of the city grant projects. So the high notes from the last 3 months is we are completely through the environmental. USDA adopted the findings and gave us the paperwork. So that is many years in the making and is now in the rearview mirror. So I know it seems like it's not a lot, but to those of us that have been doing it, it's a great milestone. So further down, the big thing to talk about tonight is just where we spend our time and resources when it comes to funding the project, the wastewater treatment plant project, and whether we want to focus in on one loan versus another or keep all our options open. And I'll get into that in more detail down below. That's the main treatment plant discussion point tonight. First few months of final design engineering are completed on the treatment plant. And I was just talking to Jim Pex today. I don't know if he's on. Doesn't look like it, but they just finished up the updated preliminary engineering report, I think internally today. So that is almost done. It should be coming to the city, hopefully next couple weeks for review. On the rate study, great news from Canyon City. That was great to hear. And Steve, I think Steve's work is nearly completed. I think Steve Donovan's work on the rate study. I'm not exactly sure when the plan is to have that document completed and in front of the city, but I know the rate resolution itself is really the meat of what he was working on. So that brings us to the discussion of USDA funding versus DEQ's Clean Water State Revolving Fund. And I just thought it was important to check in with council and just discuss whether the city should abandon the pursuit of USDA funding or continue to go down that road and essentially see what they have to offer. So the short of it is that we won't know the deal that USDA will offer us until we go completely through a few months process. It's going to be public hearings and applications that have to be updated and a lot of documents. The PER has to be the preliminary engineering report that Flagline just finished. They have to get that through USDA. So then that's just time and energy and effort, sort of oxygen in the room that the team could spend on working through that process with USDA and then seeing what kind of deal they have to offer. So I wanted to try to make it as apples to apples as possible with comparing these two main loan sources that the city is looking at to fill in the majority of the project. Obviously our plan is to continue to try to find grants, but there's just not that many left that the city hasn't gotten already. So we just think it's prudent, especially with hearing that these budgets from the funding agencies, a $25 million loan to them is still pretty substantial. They may or may not be able to afford that at certain times. With DEQ, put it over 2 fiscal years, for example. So there's just some process to go through for these agencies to loan out that funding. So with USDA, 2 things just kind of off the top is that right now, they're only funded to the end of this week and on a continuing resolution. So they need a budget from the feds to do anything for, next year. They've spent all their money for this year and they're waiting on some certainty for next year. So another thing and another big discussion point is going to be Build America, Buy America, which I think we've discussed with council a few different times, but it is a new version of what used to be called American Iron and Steel, and it just applies to many more components of the treatment plant than we would have previously had to worry about. Now almost every component will have to be sourced domestically, and that with some things that's just very, very difficult. So that leads to cost increases, leads to uncertainty with the contractor that you might hire. You know, they're going to build in some buffer just because, and that's the feedback that Flagline and Kennedy Jenks have gotten from around the state, because it's still a relatively new requirement. But that, you know, they're seeing some cost increases because of that. There is the DEQ folks have told me that the clean water money that we would be asking for would not have BABA restrictions on it. BABA's Build America, Buy America. EPA is also trying to change the rules on the waiver that they have. So, I mean, there could be a chance that EPA changes the rules on us before we can get this finalized, but that's another reason why I think it's important to try to get some of this funding committed so that we don't continue to see new laws and rules come into effect that make this project more expensive. So that's the first. Yep. Is there a question?
Yeah, I just want to, so you don't feel that if we go forward with DEQ now and they implement this BABA afterwards, they won't come back and try and put it on us after the fact?
Well, so that's, in my experience, the last couple of years, you know, once you have a funding contract in place, they can't change that contract. You know, and right now we have money allocated for this project, and you know, I asked the DEQ folks pretty clearly whether BABA was going to apply or not, and they did not think it would. But those rules do change. So 3 to 6 months from now, a year from now, that waiver probably won't still apply. So there is an urgency, I think, to locking down enough construction funding, because it's also flexible in a way that USDA is not flexible. You can just not use some of the loan and give it back, and not give it back, but just don't draw on it. And then you're not paying interest on what you don't use, and you don't have to use the full amount. Whereas with USDA, if you don't use the whole amount, the grant is the last money that they give you. So if you end up saving 2 million and you have a $2 million grant, you're just not going to get the grant. So in that way, you know, thinking optimistically, USDA also is not the most competitive to reduce, you know, the amount you need from them once the project gets bid out, and, you know, hopefully it comes in a little under the estimates, right? Optimistically.
Okay, so you're looking for a decision from us tonight, whether to have you move forward with USDA or just drop them completely and just go with DEQ.
Basically, yeah. And what I would suggest, and I tried to make kind of a little decision tree down here, if it makes any sense. I try to put some illustrations to some of these complicated decisions. But yeah, I just want to know if the council still wants us to go down the road with USDA, knowing that everything I've been told is that it will not be as good of a deal as Clean Water Revolving Fund. But I can't tell you with certainty that, like 100%, that something great could happen. It's just a matter of spending the time and the resources of, you know, staff and consultants and all that to go down that road. I don't think it's a huge decision, but I just thought it was important to kind of stop and think and talk about where we're spending our time as far as chasing this funding.
So Nick, you've done a good job on the pros and cons. What's your recommendation, knowing what you know today?
I mean, I really don't think it's a great opportunity with USDA, and it is going to be a good bit of work. I know some on the council are concerned with the costs of all these consultants and all the things that we do, and this is just going to be one of those things where, I mean, it's all going to be paid for with your grants, but it's a cost that potentially could be avoided in the grand scheme of things. If it means getting a couple more $1 million, it would be obviously worth it. I think the likelihood of that is pretty low, because the chain of events that has to happen is even the national USDA office will have to kick in additional money for this project specifically. So I mean, the local USDA office will have to request more money from the national office, just because they're the size of the whole state of Oregon. USDA's grant pot every year is basically how much we would like to get. So it's unlikely they will spend an entire year's allocation of grants just on our project. And that's what they have told me.
Okay, what are our chances any less of getting other government funds, because we're gonna be lobbying for that? If we don't go for the USDA, will they look at that negatively? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it could be worth it to say you checked one more opportunity off the list and it's not an option. I mean, just to kind of, illustrate how you're at the end of your rope. But I just want, us to kind of understand that it might just be that sort of exercise, right? It probably is an exercise in futility, but it might have some benefit outside of actually funding the project, like you're saying, to illustrate to them that we're turning over every rock.
Yeah.
I will say your rate study consultant, Steve Donovan, and your finance accountant sitting out here are both kind of recommending clean water to drop USDA.
No, I definitely agree with that. I just want to make sure we don't shoot ourselves in the foot.
I think with what we've been told and where USDA is sitting, I think we can rationally explain that to our congressman and explain why we're not going down that path and how, the benefit is going to cost us more than what we'll get at the end.
Right. Okay. I just had to put it out there.
And Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, but we can always go back if all of a sudden there's a miracle and 30 million drops into USDA's lap. We can change course, correct, Nick?
Yeah, exactly. It's not, if anything, not going all the way through this process now, I think allows that path to still be open, because then this will not have been underwritten. When it goes to their finance people and they give you an offer, they're not going to want to redo that. But this project has kind of been in limbo with them for years. So I don't think they will really care if it continues to stay in limbo for, another year, if we wait to see what the new administration might do. And there's always a chance things will change, right?
Okay. Okay.
So later, we're just asking for a consensus from the council to move forward one direction or the other.
What's the quickest process?
Clean water.
I think clean water.
Yeah.
That's what I.
Yep.
in mind.
Yep. Yeah, it's actually kind of frighteningly simple how easy it will be for us to get 21 million more dollars. I thought they might make us go through more steps, but they basically said, just ask us and update your application and we'll give it to you. So, I mean, that's pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's straightforward, simple, it's gonna reduce costs.
Yeah, sure.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we instruct a Cody Consulting to apply for Clean Water Revolving Fund loan.
I said,
Okay, a motion was made by Chris, seconded by Brad. Is there any discussion? Discussion, okay. Then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Nick? You
Yeah,
got-
one question is also that like Flagline and Kennedy Jinks are supposed to also submit all of this. It's part of their scope of work to submit all of it to USDA. So, I mean, do we need to like authorize Melissa to tell them that they don't need to do that right now? That's kind of my other thought. I'm not sure how to go about that or if council needs to weigh in on that.
I think if council decided to go one direction, it's implied that all other things going the opposite will now end also, so
Right.
we'll work on that. So
Works
next,
for me.
next item, Nick.
Yep, next item is the EDA grant and the broadband project. So, and this is on the 5th page of the packet, or at least my section. I don't know what page of your packet it is, sorry. So the city received an EDA grant, which is the Economic Development Administration, in April of 22 for just over $1.8 million to construct fiber optic broadband backbones through the city of John Day in 2 main segments. So, and then the city also received the broadband technical assistance grant from the state of Oregon this spring of 24. And the intention was to use that money to pay for the remaining engineering and legal and administrative tasks to get the EDA project out to bid and constructed. So the current status of all that is I worked with BLJ, our city attorney, to review all the procurements and contracting for essentially all the work that has been done by consultants on the EDA project so far, because I need to put together a grant reimbursement request. And in order that, you know, that's where we were headed, was to try to clear these expenses, to edit amend the grant to pay for some of the stuff the city has already paid for out of pocket. And the feedback from the city attorneys was they did not think any of the 3 consultants, myself, Catalyst, or BLJ, they were not able to write a memo saying any of those met the EDA's requirements. And I'll just speak to that with EDA. They are one of the most difficult agencies to work with in this way. And the other 2 EDA projects I work on and administer, the cities just aren't able to use grant funds to pay for me because I wrote the grant. And if you wrote the grant, you're conflicted from being paid from the grant. That can also apply to architects or engineers. If they help on the front end, and then they are actually just can't even bid on a contract for that project. So the other 2 communities and groups that I work for decided to just, you know, pay me separately for that administration. So I wasn't really surprised by that. I think I've always kind of earmarked that it may or may not be eligible for reimbursement. So we did figure that out, which means the city now has essentially $0 committed to the match of the EDA project. Whereas, you know, the previous assumption was West, is it 241 West Main, you know, would be a part of this because it would be the cyber mill, and that was going to be a part of the match. And then all these expenses to date would be a part of the match, and the city would be looking pretty good. So now we're back to 0. And that's really the end of the bad news, because it just gets better from here. Because Oregon Telephone and Raleigh got a grant for over $1.7 million. City staff met with them to go over the areas that they plan to construct broadband with this grant, and it overlapped all of the areas that we were going to build with the EDA grant. And they said if there was anything missing, that they would be trying to cover all those gaps in the next few years.
The bottom line is, we don't touch that EDA grant or go near it, we're not gonna owe anything. We'll be done with it. We don't have to have anybody watch that building for the next 15 years. It's over.
Yeah, and all the broadband still gets built. And you
Yeah.
guys don't have to deal with it.
I love it.
Yeah, so the great news about this, and this kind of, dealing with the Grant County digital thing, since I was appointed to this council, basically. This kind of puts a stake in the heart of this whole discussion. Which is great because the private sector is doing what the government was trying to do, basically. And we're gonna be able to give the taxpayers back about $2 million. That, the private sector is going to, for an infrastructure that the private sector is building. And they're gonna build it exactly where it had been planned for the city of John Day or Grant County Digital, whoever built it. Around John Day. So it's the best of both worlds. We get rid of the project, we get rid of the grants, we get rid of the administration, we get rid of the overhead. The money goes back to the US Treasury and the state of Oregon, and the broadband that was promised to the citizens of John Day gets installed by people who know what they're doing. So it's awesome. This is a win-win, and it's the infrastructure's coming, the money's coming to John Day. It's just not coming through the city of John. It's coming through private industry which is where it should come on this, in my opinion. I've been decisively engaged in this here now, and I'm very excited. And the way this worked out was, fortuitous, right? Who would have believed that the private sector, came along and said, "Oh, we'll do this." So here we are.
Great job, you guys. We're also building that relationship with that private
Mhm.
valley. So
Mhm.
Good, so, all we need to do as a council is say, do we want to proceed with the BTAP grant? Do we want to proceed with the EDA grant? And we all say,
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Mayor, I move that the council direct the city manager and staff to work with staff to dissolve this project and take the appropriate steps necessary to give this money back and give it back to the United States Treasury and the Treasury Department, the Oregon Department of Treasury. And do what we can to support our private sector partners in the installation of this infrastructure that has been promised to the city citizens of John Day. Kind of a political motion.
second,
Passionate about.
I'll second.
Brad seconds it. All those in favor? Aye. All right. Hey, thanks, Nick. I know
Yeah,
you guys-
happy that it's still gonna get done and it's one more thing off the city's plate.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Nick.
Good job. Hi, Brad.
The other thing they can say. So EDA grant and the USDA loan probably would have resulted in additional compliance audit costs. Usually like 5,000 or 6,000 maybe in that year on top of these. That was probably why I was shaking my head. I agree with Nick that you shouldn't go that direction. Okay, Chris, to answer your question, our first rates are actually going down by about 100 basis points, 1%.
See,
It's almost exactly the same. Yeah.
that's unusual.
Yeah, I just looked it up after you asked the question. I looked it up before and I remember not thinking it wasn't anything to worry about, but it's actually going good. Okay. So finance report. It's the 11th month, or rather the 5th month of our fiscal year. So we should have 58% remaining on that report, if we're right on pace. As you can see, we're actually in nearly all categories. We do have a budget an over expenditure that I will address. But we are looking solid. If you look at our personnel services, materials and services, capital outlay for general fund, every one of those is over 75% remaining. So we're way ahead of pace on that, especially personnel services.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then, so anyway, that's the big piece. The reason that current revenues in the administrative department are almost non-existent is because we budgeted for that $1 million loan from the URA. We haven't taken that out yet. We don't need the money. We have $1.2 million in the bank right now. This is because we budgeted for a lot of expenditures that we just haven't seen. We've got some grant reimbursements, courtesy of Nick. And then various other things just have been fortuitous and resulted in lower expenditures as well. So we just aren't anywhere near where budgeted needed to be. In street fund, you can see we have 18% left on revenues. So again, that's favorable, right? So we got more revenues collected in this juncture than we expected to. That's due to Grant County Forest receipts, which came in already to the tune of about $200,000.
Nice.
Now onto our over expenditure. So IT fund, we didn't have a lot of room to wiggle. In IT fund, we didn't expect to run a lot of costs through that. And so we reported in October, we didn't have an over expenditure, and now we're over by 10% or $2,000 on materials and services. So we will need to do a budget amendment. We can do that. We can do a little bit by resolution now, or rather in January, but not a ton. So we'll just see if that gives us enough to get there. We only need 10% by resolution. So we'll see what we can do there in January. We will just have sure. Do that way. Okay, and then moving on. Okay, next page. Absolutely.
So in the IT fund, we have the sale of those buildings that are attributed there. So if we get the sale of those buildings, will that help it or it's still over? Okay.
Gross expenses.
It would calculate, yeah, but-
Yep. And we're actually expected to be somewhat near target, I understand, on the IT fund for this building sales, so.
Yeah.
Unpaid comp fund on page 2, is running, ahead of budget. We've had a ton of sick time utilization, a ton of, vacation time utilization. Far more than we had expected at this juncture. A couple of people have left the organization and that, we pay out their sick, right? That's the story law. And so that's part of it. On the water fund, you'll see that the debt service is also 23% remaining. Well, those are once a year payments. We've done the December 1st. They were put in November. So that's why we don't have a whole lot left in those. We won't use it. We will get pretty close to the budget, but that's because we knew what the payments were going to be. Sewer fund is the same situation for debt service. And then if we want to go to well, you can probably see too, the Urban Renewal Agency, we only have 31% left there. We had a huge payment to one of the contractors on that. So that took us down significantly on that. And if you remember during the budget process, Urban Renewal Agency was really plugged. It's like, okay, well, we know what our revenues are going to be. We know what everything else is going to be. Here's what's left. And that's what we plugged into materials and services. So, okay. And then go to the legal and professional services category. We scroll through that legal is very close to budget in some of the things. Water fund, sewer fund, we're almost exhausted on those. Now, going back to the report, remember when we do the reason IT fund is overexpended is because that's a budget category. So these are your appropriation levels that you see on this budget category review. And so if you go over on an appropriation level, that is a reportable issue. Whereas a line item like legal or professional services is part of those other areas. So you can see we're not close on everything but the IT fund. We're not even close to having an over expenditure on those. But from a line item perspective, legal and professional services are a little high. So if we go over these, it's not a report issue necessarily, is what I'm trying to convey. General fund, we're doing relatively close to budget. Fire, we probably won't spend the rest, so we're probably okay there. Streets running fine, and community development and legal is fine. It's just that water and sewer, which is where labor attorney type costs would go. So that's because the bulk of the expenditures are related to water and sewer. So anyway. And then on professional services, on that category, we're doing better overall. IT fund also overexpended there. And then in the sewer fund, we had a large payment to an outsourced engineering type services, ACS. And that was what caused that sewer. And I believe that's a one and done payment there. So it shouldn't continue to annualize and cause us problems there. In community development fund, we have the city planner and the outsourced city planners, and that's why we're only so high on community development. Any questions? Yes.
Melissa mentioned she's preparing the budget or getting ready to prepare the budget next year. When do you expect to have an audit so we can see exactly what's going on in our city?
We hired auditors and we have not heard back from them. They've been here. We've seen them. We've seen the whites of their eyes. Those same auditors do a number of other cities that I'm involved with. And I have seen an audit report for one of the other cities. So I'm not sure. I mean, I know they're working on stuff. I'm just not sure where we fall in that.
Do you think we'll have a budget report, an audit report before we get the budget ready to go?
I mean, without extension, it's due at the end of this
I
year,
know.
just the end of this month. So I'll definitely be reaching out to them to see where they're at. If we're expecting an extension, that would probably give us a good clue on how long it's going to take. Because when we request an extension, you have to say when we'll have it done by. It's not like a tax return where you get an automatic 3 or 6 month extension. This is a, hey, Secretary of State, I know you don't normally grant these, but hey, can we have it till say March? Just an example.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay, discussion regarding a prohibition of Jake breaks within city limits.
Yeah, Mayor, I was asked by Councilor Lockhart and Colin to put this on the agenda. I assume Councilor Lockhart will.
Okay, talking about East Highway coming into John Day from the east. Highway 26 by the LDS Church and also by just past the city hall as you go down past the motel on your left. I've lived one block off that street for over 30 years and I've got many people contacting me about as they come off that hill by LDS and by the hotel is even worse. They don't need to use those. And I'm looking up here. An ordinance is two sentences long. It's just, and no person shall apply engine brakes when operating a motor vehicle on the street or highway within the city. That's all I'm asking. We need an ordinance. The ordinance right now reads that if there's noise within a highway that's causing people not to sleep, we have the right to enforce it. I think we need to add engine brakes, tank brakes, they call them.
Well, you gotta distinguish between engine brake and exhaust brake.
It's called an exhaust brake. Yeah.
No, exhaust brakes don't make hardly any noise at
And
all.
whatever
Engine
one that
brake
makes the
does.
whatever makes the noise.
Yeah, it's an engine brake.
It says engine braking. Yep.
And driving truck through John Day, there's absolutely no reason at all to use a Jake brake. It just is not.
And I had, only time people have complained about something to me about something that they're bothered by.
Melissa, have you?
You live on that street.
Oh, yeah.
I am staying out of the discussion.
Yeah.
of,
No, I just want to ask, have you done any?
I did put a phone call. You have to work in conjunction with ODOT, obviously. I did put a phone call into ODOT. I did not get a call back. My belief probably is because of the holidays. I'm not gonna get anywhere with them. I have briefly discussed it with the city attorney about an ordinance. If council's directing me to bring something back, we'll do that.
I think we definitely need to do that. Do we need a motion?
No, you're just directing it.
Discussion.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I can, keep in mind, again, we're talking enforcement, right?
right,
So,
so, yeah.
That's why we hired a police officer. Sheriff's Department.
Mhm. Yep. Okay, so we will continue moving on with that.
yeah.
Now we're down to city manager comments. Um,
Thanks, council, for the long meeting and, you know, a little bit of scatteredness there when I was looking up at the computer and looked down. You did have the right ordinance in, but I'll feel better when I look up the code and get a verification on what we're doing with that. We are going to, Capitol Day, a few of us, and, gonna set that up, talk to the legislators, get some training. And then we have the elected essentials class for all of the elected. I encourage our council to sign up for that. It's in on the 31st. An all-day event, but it's good training for counselors. And so it's pretty important. Again, I'm thankful to Canyon City, Steve. It was great that you did that and got it through. I know that's tough. I know your citizens aren't happy either, so again, I'm gonna reiterate, I will do everything I can to make sure that we continue forward. This process is fair and you are paying the right amount, along with our citizens, so anything we can do to knock down that price will be helpful. We do have a meeting with DEQ set up for February. I've asked the mayor to attend. They'll be on the ground with our engineers and we'll be talking to them about our project. Other than that, enjoy the holidays.
Do any counselors have anything to add? Tonight?
I do.
You do.
I've been here for 4 hours now. But that's okay. So wastewater treatment plant. I mean, I would just challenge all of us to really take a look with the scope of our skill sets and our relationships. What can we do to not only enable moving this project forward, supporting staff, supporting our contractors, but to look up and out at our elected officials above us who may have influence or even in some cases control or funding that might be able to come our way in the next 5 years. We got the title, it's right there on our card. It gives us some weight when we go talk to people because we represent a constituency that it votes for them as well. And so I would just challenge everybody on the council to be prepared to come to council meeting, every council meeting and time the council comments, be prepared maybe to talk a little bit about what you did in the last couple of weeks to help move the ball forward. And it doesn't have to be something grand. Maybe it's just, hey, I did some research on this and found out about this, or I learned about this. And that would be just anything. And the whole idea is we keep this on the front burner, right? We keep it on the front burner because it's super important. And kind of along that vein, so what I did is I met with Senator McLean last week for about an hour. And I said at the last council meeting, I would leverage any relationships that I had. I've known Senator-elect McLean for decades now. We have a relationship through previous professional experience. And we talked a lot about, he's the incoming replacing Senator Finley. And he's a lawyer. He's conservative. He's not a big, government spending kind of guy. But at the same time, he's very pragmatic. And he understands in the state of Oregon, there will be funds made available. And I pled with him, if those funds are going to be spent, have to be spent. And understanding that, the political intricacies of all that at the state level. Like have those funds spent John Day, not somewhere else. And I was able to spend the time to talk with him in some pretty granular detail about the scope and challenge of our building this wastewater treatment plant and the proximity and the to the rivers and the permitting and all the challenges we've had. So he was very receptive, and I'm very happy about having an opportunity that he gave me to talk with him one-on-one for about an hour. So that's the community development fee on the our water or utility bill. And I want to say, yeah, let's just wait till the budget cycle and do this next year, but I really feel strongly that we should maybe entertain a discussion, maybe in a next account, moving on in the council meeting down in the next meeting or two. That fee that we all get charged on the water sewer bill in John Day that goes to community development. That's just a tax to pay for community development, really. And in Oregon, you can do that as a municipality. You can tax people through fees. And so I'm honestly surprised that ever even got put in place in this community. But if we're going to have $6, I want that $6 to go to the wastewater treatment plant, not some nebulous community development, big hand, little map thing. So I would like to look at rescinding that as far as where that money goes and what the impact would be on the budget this year. I mean, just so we know before we go running down the middle on it, and then look at either knocking that out completely to help offset a little bit some of these fee increases, and or leaving it in place to maybe delay future increases to some degree or mitigate some future, but get that money. If we're going to take the money and put it in the right place, that's bottom line. So just kind of some options on that. Another meeting or two down the road, whenever you feel like you can get that. And so Canyon City, Matt was in here with you last meeting and talked about joint cities, joint meetings. And I think there's going to be definitely time for that, but I would like to just kind of entertain the idea. I don't know if it's a good idea or not, of maybe having a less formal subcommittee between John Day and Canyon City. It's more of a kind of a real-time update on how things are going. Different directions, different ideas as they're presented. So we kind of maybe have a process where we can sit down, a couple times a month outside each other's council meetings as staff, and or maybe one or two reps from the council and just meet and kind of just chat about, what's important to us today. I mean, John Day has perspective, Canyon City has perspective. Sometimes they meet, sometimes they don't. So let's at least, and I think that would go a long way to answering Matt's mail on his request. I mean, and any input you have, Steve, would be awesome. But I'm not. So I'm proposing that we look into that, and I don't know, Melissa, you could maybe and Jerry, that would be willing to help support that. So, and then related to we look at public works. I know there's some discussion about filling positions in the union and all the challenges and dynamics of that. So we've got some vacant positions, but it was reported now we spent a lot of money paying people off time or vacation or paying out people.
When someone terminates, you pay out their vacation.
Yeah. So can you give me a sense, Melissa, of how much, I understand there's been some folks that have been gone quite a bit. And can you give me kind of a sense of that dynamic in that department? I mean, where I'm going with this is how busy really are they? And what is the demand signal for employee bandwidth in our public works?
To be careful here. I think like all departments, it's as much as it can be, or as little as it wants to be. I think, and I explained to council earlier, I would give, I would give weekly, try to give you guys weekly updates more often about what's happening. I know that we have several vehicles. I was told that, you know, both our Sanders are down, our back truck's down. We had a couple employees, well, 3 employees just about are taking, you know, took months off at a time. And a couple of them are no longer here, so, you know, I know there's things that come up that are getting done. We, you know, our meter reading is going to satellite, so you don't have to drive around. We're doing that changeover in the next few years. We should be totally changed over to satellite meter reading.
And so my intent's not to. But when we look at it on paper, we've got, correct me if I'm wrong on this, we've got 5 employees. 5 employees total doing public work.
We have a public works director. We have a foreman for the end of this month. We did. 1, 2 on the, so we have like 4 on the,
So how
it's kind of, there's a fuzzy gray line there that I can't,
yeah,
trying to be careful.
yeah, and I understand with the union negotiations and so you gotta be kind of careful of that. I mean, we're not. But where I'm going with this is when we look at the big picture. I mean, we've got a number of people that have supervisory roles. I mean, I don't really, honestly, I don't know. When you have a title that kind of implies more responsibility, more money, things like that. Span of control, generally accepted span of control in government is 3 to 5. I'm sorry, 3 to 7, excuse me, 3 to 7. So 1 supervisor, 3 to 7 employees. That's the generally accepted span of control. When you get above 7, it gets really hard for the supervisor. When you get below 3, you start questioning why you have a supervisor. And that's published, it's doctrine, if you will.
Best practice.
Best practice. So, and you can apply that to all kinds of industries, but especially government. And so we've got 6 employees or less, and we've got at least 4 with some sort of supervisory implied title and compensation. And so I understand there's some transition going on, but I think it's a good and again, this is the reason I'm public works is wastewater treatment, right? This is where that money, there's a component of that money in here. And I just think it's important that we support the city manager in looking for a variety of options on how we handle certain aspects of our public works demands here in John Day. And are we doing it smart? Are we doing it efficiently? And are there other options we should examine? So I'm not proposing anything in particular, but I'm just saying this because we got to focus on the basics, and that's getting that toilet to flush, you know. And so I you know, and that equates to resources. And resources get spent a lot. Operations personnel is your biggest drain on that. So there's some real opportunities to make some improvements there, I think. But I want the experts, staff, to maybe talk more to us about them in the future when you can.
What are you suggesting?
Well, I mean, I'm suggesting we look at how do we do public works? I mean, I walked out in front of my house. My wife says, if I fall in this hole, I'm gonna. But I walked out and it literally in front of my house, the vault, the water main vault was collapsing and there's 2 great big gaping holes in front of my house. And I thought, okay, well, I can just like, you know, other people, you see the pothole in front of your house, you don't like that. Right? So, you know, Melissa got right on it. I just call her and say, hey, Melissa, I didn't see this before. Streets collapsing. And so they got right. We're working on it. But where I'm going with this is we got stop signs down, we got different things. Are we using our money in the best, most efficient way we can? And I want Melissa to look at different options on how we manage public works at whole. And look at different options. I mean, do we take a portion of what we do in public works and contract it out? And then just have employees for certain things? Do we reorganize our staff so we have the appropriate bandwidth or the span of control is the word or phrase for supervisor versus employee, and then people paid a fair wage for a fair day's work. And at the end of the day, I want to be able to treat people fair. You know, we're going through this union thing right now, and it's, you know, it's not easy. You know, and there's an important, don't get me wrong, there's a place for unions. I've been in one. But unions are usually there if we fail to provide that environment that people should have, you know? And so, I want to change I want the union to feel like, hey, we trust our leadership, we trust our local, and, you know, we can work together instead of being in a more maybe adversarial mode. So I'm just gonna say that, you know, probably shoot here. So that's it. I'm done talking. It's important. And even though we've been here now 4 hours and 15 minutes, I've got a small window to talk about these things, you know. I think they're important. Next.
Yes.
I'll keep it short.
Thank you, sir.
Short. As of December 10th, 2024, 40 people have lost their job. The mill shuts down, another 36 will lose their job. It's a 76 direct job loss. Indirect jobs will amount to 106 jobs. Adding all that up, it'll be a $58 million hit to Grant County. That's from the Oregon Department of Labor. I don't care who buys. Now here, I don't care who. I meet with Representative Nolans this Friday to talk about it, and for an hour. And I appreciate him offering to meet with us, but you don't realize what's going to happen.
Are you also meeting with them about the sewage treatment plant?
I'll talk about it.
Okay, because that is very
I
important.
know, but we got to have people here first to be able to support.
No, we need to flush our toilets, Chris.
Well, okay.
Anybody lives here.
Just so you're aware. It's gonna happen. So please, if you have any bull, and I don't have a dog in, you know, pony or whatever you call it. We can't afford it. We cannot afford to lose a mill.
Okay, anybody else?
No.
Okay, my turn. This is the last meeting of the year. Trust me, it has been a doozy, but we made it through. We forward to next year and some fresh blood on council. And I just want to wish all of you a safe, healthy, and happy Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, and New Year. Thank you all for being here to support us. We really appreciate it.
And thank you to Ed.
Yeah.
To be here
Thank you,
that-
Ed.
No,
They'll be here in January.
he's gotta help open the meeting.
You're gonna be here.
He'll be here at the first meeting,
Okay,
so we can all give him a hard time then.
okay.
I make a motion to adjourn.
No further, if there's no further business.